Hey, Steve, one of the things you and I talk about quite a bit are some of the challenges that dads face. So what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that dads face these days?
Oh, what a great question, Eric. There's so many of them.
Yeah.
But what are the biggest? So I guess the biggest are probably going to be broad categories like men's health. So there's going to be health. I think stereotypical dads and kind of identity would be another big one. And the third one is going to be social isolation.
Yeah,
in relation to fatherhood.
Absolutely. Okay, I couldn't agree more. I think from what I see in amongst men and like men's groups and things like that, that really covers the big ones. So more on that in a moment. But first,
hello, I'm Steve.
And I'm Eric. And together we are two dads with one mission.
Welcome to the 𝗙𝗑𝗵𝗲 podcast. This is the show for dads, all about fatherhood, faith, and freedom, one conversation at a time. And on this episode, we're going to just scratch the surface on the three biggest challenges, just like scratching an itch.
Yeah. Okay, so in the next 3 episodes, we're going to really dig deeper on these 3 topics. But for now, let's get scratching. So I guess let's talk about health.
Yeah, so health. And when I say health, I'm talking about, in relation to, the physical and emotional demands of parenting,
Right.
In terms of, things like the effect that sleep deprivation can have on your health. And more importantly, it's about what's going on the inside and being more self-aware of that. Because a lot of the time, dads ignore what's going on in their own body purely because they're not really that self-aware of the damage that they're doing to themselves. If they're not getting enough rest, sleep, finding ways to relax and de-stress.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Again, I think that men are so often surprised by their health issues. They'll end up in an emergency room or their doctor and realize, they've got high blood pressure that's about to kill them, or they're pre-diabetic or fully diabetic, things like that, and they're just honestly surprised by it because they kind of lack that self-awareness that you mentioned. Where women, on the other hand, are far more inclined to, any kind of little issue that they feel like is going on with their body, they're inclined to address it much quicker. So our goal here, one of the things that we want to talk about and drill down more on is creating self-awareness. But back to to health here. So what are some of the things that men can do, that dads can do to, like you mentioned, sleep, right? So a lack of sleep can lead to, or it can aggravate any kind of existing health issues. So let's talk about sleep for a moment. Is there anything like, I know that you've had some recent challenges with sleep. In fact, even today, you've been up for quite a number of hours already.
Yeah.
There's no real issue with once in a while, right? But when you chronically have disrupted sleep or not enough sleep, right, that can lead to other health issues.
Yeah, it's the compounding effect. It's the compounding effect of bombarding your nervous system with stress hormones. And in fact, we'll dig deeper on the next episode about kind of stress hormones, what they are. But they lead to some of the really big health issues. What are those big health issues?
Yeah, so the top 4 for men are blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. And all of those things are inflammation-based diseases. And you talked about stress hormones, cortisol being one of the big ones there. So when you're under stress, or you're sleep deprived, or you have chronic pain going on, things like that, the body's dumping cortisol, the adrenal glands are going crazy trying to make up for all that, and it all leads to these big 4 diseases that men suffer from.
Yep. And again, we intimated earlier, we're just not that self-aware. We often ignore the signs. So stay tuned for the next episode.
Yeah, so we'll dig deeper into how to create some of that awareness and how to maybe respond better to that. So let's jump right into dad stereotypes.
Yeah, so there's this stereotype, isn't there, about dads have to be, financially the financial earners, the breadwinners,
right?
The
That's
head
how
of the family.
that was the world I grew up in, right? My dad was the breadwinner, my mom was stay at home, and
same here. It's normally, passed down to us from generation to generation. Our fathers before us, their fathers before them, our great grandfathers. It's that, and hence the word stereotypical. But it also causes challenges in terms of, work-life balance as well. Because if you're the main breadwinner, how do you balance the fact that, a majority of your time is at work, and
right.
when you come back, often physically exhausted from a hard day's work, how do you then kind of switch back into that family mode? So for me, there's 3 types of kind of stereotypical dads. There's, the dads that are the main earners. They're absolutely killing it and maybe at the pinnacle of their career.
Sure.
I know you and I have had discussions about this, Eric. We were that type of dad.
Yeah, there was,
our business, as we were growing our businesses, we were at the pinnacle. We were absolutely killing it, smashing it, out of the ballpark, and had everything financially. But in terms of, did we have it all emotionally? And did we have it all when it came to kind of
some of those times
No.
For me were the unhappiest. I was at the least peace in my life. There was a balance issue for sure for me.
No, for sure. And for me, I would describe it as, look, I was financially wealthy, but I was emotionally poor.
Yeah. Okay. I think for guys, it's especially like a trap when you're making money. You can kind of make that, like you're too large a part of your identity, and you start denying the other parts of your life.
Yeah, and there's a couple of other stereotypical dads as well. So that's the one category of the stereotypical dad. The dads that are killing it, but they're struggling with that work-life balance. Then you've got the dads that feel but they shouldn't have to be the main earner, the main breadwinner.
Right.
And my partner, my spouse, my wife, he or she, they're sat at home. So if they're sat at home, why can't they earn? Why do I have to do all the hard work?
Yeah.
So there's that type. And then I think there's a third category, is those dads that are kind of wondering what the heck's happening around them. And it's like they desperately want to be the main breadwinner, but there may be some limiting beliefs that are holding them back. And if you haven't tuned into our previous episodes, we've got a great episode on, limiting beliefs that you should tune into.
Yeah, definitely listen to
that.
So
there's limiting beliefs that are holding them back from achieving maybe, their financial goals, getting the kind of job they want. And often these are mental blocks, what we call limiting beliefs, that are preventing them to move to the next level in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And of course, we're going to have an episode completely on this idea of stereotypes and work-life balance. So maybe we can talk about social isolation. This is something I see. I'm in a lot of men's groups on Facebook and kind of monitor, the feel of what's going on and some of the issues. And I'm going to say social isolation is one of the biggest things that men face or struggle with, in other words, because again, whether it's cultural stereotypes or upbringing or, whatever it was, men, when they struggle, they tend to go inward. Again, women, when they struggle, they tend to go outward. And so, that's really the reason why, the vast majority of suicides are men, because they just won't reach outside of themselves. So let's talk about that for a little bit. How can men kind of overcome this social isolation?
Well, it's about understanding what it is. So what causes this social isolation? And it's what I would call, it's a values transition. So as we become parents for the first time or maybe more, you go through what's known as a values transition, and things that were once important to you now become less important. Things that weren't important to you at all now become a top priority in your life. So, for example, prior to having your first child, you wouldn't have thought twice about, going out with your buddies, having a couple of beers at the pub, as we call them in England here,
right.
The pub or the bars. You would you wouldn't even think twice about it. You'd go meet up and basically have that social connection with your buddies.
Yeah.
The minute a child is born, there is that stereotypical dad. You might now feel that you have to ask permission from your significant other.
Yeah.
But also you're stuck between, part of you wanting to continue to socialize and have that social connection, and the other part of you wanting to read bedtime stories.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there again, I've seen a number of kind of reactions to that. Some men can almost get bitter or angry that, this child's now competing for that thing that they want to do, and they're not fully embracing fatherhood, right? So that's just a mindset challenge. And so all of that represents like a mental challenge for men. Like how do you, are you going to embrace it? Are you going to be angry about it? All those kinds of things. So obviously we're going to dig deeper into why men socially isolate and how to start working your way out of that if you feel like that's you. So
yeah, that'll be an episode in itself. And if my maths are correct, Eric, I count 3 there. So I think we've got a trilogy in the making here.
Absolutely. So all right. So the next episode then is going to be called 4 Dumb Ways to Die. And we're going to dig into how to not die in a dumb way.
I think pretty much the episode title gives it away there, Eric.
Yeah, I think
what
so.
A great title, 4 Dumb Ways to Die. Looking forward to that one.
Perfect. So how can people connect with us, Steve?
Well, the easiest way to reach us is on our website. So for those of you who have listened to previous episodes, it's allieddads.com. Hey, if you're new, this is your first episode, guess what? It's allieddads.com.
It's pretty simple. All right, perfect. Well, hey, we appreciate you listening. And Steve, it was good catching up with you. And
yeah, it's always great, Eric, to record an episode. Hey, before we head off, just want to say those final words that I always say at the end of each episode. Please go and find and subscribe on your favorite streaming channels. And I'll see you on the next episode.
Absolutely. Take care.